Hey everybody, welcome back to MXP Oakland. We have a great event for you today, and we are right in the thick of it. It's round number 6, an exciting stage of the tournament because some of our players in the feature match area who have great records, if they win this one, they're locking their position for day number 2. Jarvis, how you doing? You having fun so far?
Yeah, it's great. We've seen the gauntlet of modern Magic, I would say, so far. Crazy Underworld breach kills, Lay on the Void, Blood Moon. Unclear who's Blood Moon's been actually helping out so far. So far, it's not been in favor of the caster of the Blood Moon.
Yeah. Well, I have some good news for you, Jarvis, and for everyone watching, is we have 2 new decks to show off on camera right now. And I'm actually going to amend this. We might have 4 new decks to show off on camera.
We do.
The main match and the backup match. But we're going to start on Alexander Lim with Bring to Light, Scapeshift, against Robert Moore with Temur Rhinos. Let's start with Temur Rhinos, Jarvis, because this was one of the ones you had mentioned when I asked you what decks are you expecting to be big this weekend. So can you tell us what this deck is all about and what are its strengths and weaknesses in the metagame?
So Temur Rhinos, at its core, it's a Cascade deck. Obviously in the Temur colors. Usually you cast Shardless Agent or Violent Outburst to cascade into a spell that costs 2 or less. Notably, in the main deck, the only card that fulfills that requirement is Crashing Footfalls, which creates 2 4/4 Rhinos. They do not have haste. So generally, the idea behind this deck is it's a Temur mid-range deck that tries to make a lot of power and attack its opponent a bunch for 8 damage.
Okay, and then I'll take the helm on Bring to Light. This is one that's a little bit less. I'm going to say that this is a deck that's very good, and you see it show up sometimes, but it's not one of like the big pillars of the format. So this is a 4 or 5 color deck with all the normal hits that you'd expect: Ren and 6, Omnath, Locus of Creation, all that great card quality, Leyline Binding. But it's got 2 sort of haymaker plays that it can access via its namesake card, Bring to Light. The first is it can pair Scapeshift with Dryad of the Elysian Grove, or actually, these days with all the triomes, it can just cast Scapeshift outright and find Valakuts and a bunch of mountains. So with enough lands on the battlefield or with a Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Bring to Light for Scapeshift can be a one-hit knockout punch. Alternatively, in a little bit of a scrappier, low-resource situation, you can Bring to Light for Valki, God of Lies, and cast it on the Tibalt side. So basically, you're getting the best Planeswalker in the format for the price of 5 mana, which is definitely quite powerful in certain situations. Couple cards that I want you to keep your eye on as we get into the match. Teferi Time Raveler from Alexander Lim's side. That's going to shut off Cascade and make things really, really difficult for Robert Moore. But thankfully, if you're a fan of Temur Cascade, Robert has a very good card in the matchup and a great answer to Teferi in Force of Negation. 4 copies in the main deck. That's going to be good against basically whatever Alexander Lim is trying to do.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Last week at the NRG, Rhinos sort of showed its dominance. There were 4 copies in top 8. One of them was Oliver Tomiko. And one thing that was really interesting about Oliver's deck was there were a bunch of main deck mystical disputes. Fortunately for Alexander Lim, that's not the case here.
So Mystical Dispute, 1 more card that circumvents the Cascade restriction and helps you fight over key cards like Teferi. I will give you a preview that there are 4 copies of Mystical Dispute in Robert's sideboard. So that's a card that could be a major player in the match, especially Robert has mulliganed to 5. So if he has a crummy draw and loses quickly in game number 1, he'll be looking to his sideboard to try to even the score.
So it looks like Robert mulliganed to 5 and kept Crashing Footfalls, land, Force of Negation, and I guess another land?
I'll tell you one thing, Jarvis. I named Force of Negation as one of the best and most important cards in the matchup. That, I think, starts to lose a little bit of traction when you're talking about a mulligan to 5, because what's normally a great play that you're really excited about to, answer a key card and get some tempo advantage, it really hurts when you're talking about giving up 2 of your starting 5 cards to do it.
What if you cast it as Dissipate?
I would prefer that.
I think you're going to see that this game, is my actual guess.
Yeah, given how I just turned my Rakdos scam deck into good honest Rakdos, I'm the type of player who is more than willing to spend 3 mana on a Force of Negation in the right circumstances.
Definitely agree with you. What was the first land Alex when played? Twitch chat, can we get some help? I believe it as a mountain of sorts. I just have no idea which mountain it is.
I'm gonna guess Rogrin Triome, but I'm more than happy to be corrected on that.
It is Rogrim Triumph, according to Sis Cat. All right. So, Brazen Borrower, Force of Negation, Prismatic Command. Not a bad hand for the 5 cards. Not thrilled about the Prismatic Command, basically because we don't have any cards in our hand, but the other 2 are pretty good here.
Yeah, it's actually working out reasonably for Robert Moore in that what he's lacking is the Cascade spell and the proactive pressure. But if he could just buy enough time for that turn 1 Crashing Footfalls to come off suspend, then that's a real plan. Eventually I'll get 2 Rhinos. I'll back it up with these disruptive elements, and we'll take it from there.
Alex ended up drawing Valky. Kind of hard to bring to life for that one now. So I wonder what modes are treasure being made, and I guess the Faithless Looting.
Yeah, the only other alternative would be to shock Alexander Lim, which is a really kind of mopey play under these circumstances. But getting the treasure is nice. It allow you to double spell on a key turn, or maybe set up to hardcast a Fury.
Seiju and Wooded Foothills were discarded. So we're avoiding the mana flood. Fiery Islet, another good way to alleviate mana flood.
That treasure is in play. I know it's a little bit confusing the way that the battlefield is laid out, but don't be surprised when that one comes into action. Do you think there's any chance of seeing some Valakut triggers in a game where Scapeshift does not get cast?
In this matchup, I would say it's kind of tough to do that, because I think the games are sort of compressed, is how I would put it. I think one of 2 things will happen. Either Rhinos kill the opponent, or a bunch of stuff has been unanswered, and then you eventually see Scapeshift put on the stack for lethal.
Okay, so big moment. The Crashing Footfalls that was suspended on turn 1 is now being cast and indeed resolving. So Alexander Lim has not cast any spells yet, but now he's going to be under the gun in the sense that he has to either answer these Rhinos or make some moves to progress his own game plan.
One really valuable card for Alex Lim to bring to light for is Supreme Verdict.
Yep, that could definitely be big in this matchup.
Oh gosh, that's a tough way to do it.
So here's a 2 mana Leyline Binding, which can answer one of these Rhinos.
So Robert started to reach for it, then paused. Do you think that's a little bit of an information leak?
Sorry, reached for what?
Information leak.
Yeah, but he reached for what?
The token, and then he thought about it, and then pulled himself
good
back.
point. It's the shark players will definitely note one another's body language in spots like this. So yeah, if you're playing, best practice is sort of to pause yourself and avoid like knee-jerk reactions and kind of have consistent pacing in terms of moving through things step by step so that you can hide as much information as possible. Here is Alex casting Omnath. It's met with petty theft, but you have to be pretty happy with that exchange, right? Because you get to draw the card on the way down.
I think this is getting away from Robert pretty quickly.
Yeah, to be honest with you, he started with the mulligan to 5 and just has not been able to do anything to really reset that disadvantage. And certainly getting 2 for 1 by an Omnath, or 1 for 0 to buy an Omnath is not helping the situation.
Yeah, Omnath is a really good Magic card. That's the mother of machines herself, Elishnorn.
Yeah, you told us earlier, Jarvis, that you were excited about this card and you thought it was one of the strongest new cards in Modern.
A new addition to the tournament rules. I believe you're allowed to pull up the text of a card on your phone and show it to your phone at any point.
Oh man, that's new to me.
Yeah.
I've been around a long time, and you have not been able to. I mean, I've been playing since before people had phones in their pockets when playing, to give you an idea. But certainly for the last few years, my memory is that you weren't allowed to take out your phone and look things up.
I think they realize what era we're heading into, and just saving time so you judges don't have to do it. It makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. Oh, by the way, this is the alternate Secret Lair art that I actually looked up this morning. Is the Junji Ito art, a Japanese artist.
Wow, looks cool, from bird's eye view here.
It's very shiny, I would say that. But remember how I talked about Omnath plus Elishnorn is kind of disgusting? You're definitely going to see that happen here.
Yeah, either one on its own is pretty disgusting, but yeah, getting to leverage them in tandem like this game's not going to last long, I don't think.
Oh, wait, I think if you get Dryad of the Elysian Grove here and any mountain, that's like so much damage. Because the Elishnorn will double trigger them as well, right?
Double triggers any permanent entering the battlefield?
Yeah. Yep. Here, we see the Force of Negation. Yeah, you can't really let that one happen. I think you just get overkilled by so much. Yeah, I'm about ready to call it for an overwhelming victory for Alex, is how I would put it in game
right.
one.
The Temur Rhinos deck is more about let's get ahead and preserve and push that advantage with a bunch of efficient cards. It's not the type of deck that has a lot of reset buttons once you get to this point.
Yeah, the nature of the cascade mechanic makes it hard to build your deck in that sort of way. You really kind of just have to hope a pair of 4/4s is good enough, And, Elishnorn making sure you don't die to 4/4s is... Or Omnath making sure you don't die from 4/4s. Tough way to do it, 4 life, 4 mana. If you crack the fetch, you would also dome your opponent for 4.
Because you don't double each individual line of Omnaths. Next, you just go down the ladder.
Yep.
Up the ladder, as it were.
Oh, that is a Dryad of the Elysian Grove.
And you can see Alex speeding up. He's been here before. He knows exactly what he can do in this situation.
Also, the fetch lands play around a removal spell on the Dryad as well.
Yeah, so that was exactly what you had lined up, Jarvis.
Yeah.
The double trigger of Valakut, Dryad, Elishnorn, fetch lands. more damage than I care to count. And Robert Moore scoops up his cards.
I think the best way of putting it is Robert doesn't want to play that game anymore. However, postboard, there's a very, very valuable weapon. We'll see if it backfires this time. I somehow doubt it will. Blood Moon. Definitely an important one in this matchup.
Yeah, Blood Moon has been involved in basically every match we've covered so far, with, I think, the exception of one. But it's a really meaningful card in Modern, and of course, super good against a 5-color deck, super good against a strategy that's centered around a non-basic land like Valakut. I'm just going to ask straight away because I think you're exactly the man to ask, Jarvis. What happens if there's a Blood Moon and a Dryad of the Elysian Grove both on the battlefield?
I believe the answer is timestamp. But this is when, we talked about calling a judge a lot. I always would just call a judge to make sure.
Yeah. So that would come up if Alex is able to search up the basic forest in advance of Blood Moon coming down.
Yep.
But let's see, what is Alex's plan gonna be against a Blood Moon? It could involve that Dryad of the Elysian Grove. He could be boarding in Boseiju, who endures. He's got access to a Celestial Purge, but yeah, I'm right there with you, Jarvis. I think Blood Moon's going to be a very meaningful card if Robert can cast it.
So something that can happen is you can fetch for, say, Plains and another basic. Then if you get Blood Moon, you can still Prismatic Ending it. That happens a fair amount. Well, Leyline Binding also works sort of the same way. Boseiju also obviously reasonable. I'm not sure you'll see the Celestial Purge, but I think the Boseijus are a slam dunk. And the fetch for 2 basics plan will be employed.
I suppose Prismatic Ending and Leyline Binding are totally fine cards to have in your deck because they can hedge against Blood Moon while also just cleanly answering at least one Rhino token.
Yeah, I would normally say that spot removal is not so good versus like one half of a Crash of Rhinos. But the thing is, you want those cards in your deck versus Blood Moon anyways, so obviously totally fine to just relieve the pressure and, try to deal with them. So let's see, from the other side, I think the Blood Moons are a lock. The Mystical Disputes are probably pretty good. I don't think I want to side in anything else.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could justify Subtlety against Teferi Time Raveler and some creatures that cost 3 and 4 mana.
Maybe.
Can I ask you about a card that I've been seeing in a lot of sideboards today?
Sure.
It's Hallowed Moonlight. This looks like a new piece of technology.
Oh, yep.
And is that going to be important in this matchup?
Yeah, you could definitely side it in. It's basically, I guess it's like close to Remand for Crashing Foot. It's actually probably better because they don't get the option to try again in 4 more turns with the thing. Yeah, that's a card that you often see played versus Living End, Indomitable Creativity, and this matchup.
Wow, yeah. It has some other applications too that I could think of, like stopping the Undying Malice out of a Rakdos scam deck, but it seems like that. Yeah, I can see why people are adopting this card. It does seem like it's hitting the sweet spot in the metagame right now.
Yep, definitely agree. I do think, now that I think about it, Moonlight probably does come in. Just having more answers. That's a clean answer. It's also a nice 2-for-1 if that works out the way it works out. Personally, I think the game's going to be more about Blood Moon than anything else, though.
Hallowed Moonlight also stops Fable of the Mirror Breaker. The first chapter makes a token, and the third chapter you exile your saga and return it as a creature. So there's a lot that this card can do, and you get to draw a card while you're at it. Bad?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've been less happy about Hallowed Moonlight versus Creativity. There's just so many times. Well, what's the best way of putting it? I've drawn it too many times versus Teferi Time Raveler from their side to be happy with it anymore.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah, because the problem is like it's just you just have to cast and draw a card. It's like think twice.
All right, moving to game 2. Looks like the players are a bit happier with their opening hands, but no turn 1 suspend for Robert. So we're off to a different start, to a different game.
That's a nice Windswept Teeth. I think I remember watching Alex Lim play against Alan Wu in basically what was a win in for Alan Wu to top 8 a Grand Prix. And Alex Lim had a completely foiled Dredge deck.
Seems to have a nice collection.
Yep. That is, I want to say Savai Triumph. Any Twitch chatters can confirm that's Savai Triumph.
Chat, Twitch chat, as you know, as is Twitch chat's MO, has responded with a shotgun approach of naming different lands that it possibly could be.
Honestly, you could tell me that's a Blood Crypt, and I would be like half inclined to believe you.
I think we've settled on it is Ziatora's Proving Ground.
Oh, that's one that's near to your heart. It's a Badlands.
Yeah, I used my powers of squinting really hard at my computer screen, and I saw a green, a red, and a black mana symbol. So it is indeed Ziatora's Proving Ground.
All right, is it time for Blood Moon from the Dark? That's not from the Dark. I think that's the
Chronicles.
Chronicles. Yeah, Chronicles. Right. I think some fetch lands are going to be
Chronicles. I know. I may not know the expeditions and the Phyrexian, alternate art cards, but I know my Chronicles.
Yeah. My personal Blood Moons are from the Dark with the Dark border.
Nice.
Yeah.
The Dark that was a small set, and
yes.
I think from what I recall, had like kind of a small print run, but it and only a few cards that are really nice. But the cards from the Dark look really cool.
They're all,
the Dark Ball Lightning or Maze of Ith, something like that.
Oh, I guess I do own Maze of Iths from that set too. But yeah, basically, we'll see if there's Blood Moon sticks. Alex has engineered explosives in. Oh, that makes sense. Of course, he would have engineered explosives in.
Yep. So that can answer the Blood Moon at a price. But Alex actually just passed the turn back there. So choosing to pick his spot, not worrying about the Blood Moon, at least for now. But he one thing that he is out of is blue mana until that Blood Moon gets dealt with.
Oh, now he has plenty of blue mana. Yeah,
so he's going to Boseiju the Blood Moon, which the good news is uncounterable. The bad news is that this is actually a pretty profitable exchange for Robert Moore, and in a game that is much closer than game 1 was, he might just be okay with taking his 2-for-1. He can leverage the extra mana by winning a counterspell battle. This is not going to be allowed. Petty targets,
right?
Permanents.
I was about to say that because when we started thinking about it, I'm just like, that doesn't work because it's pretty clear what he was thinking about. I mean, fortunately for him, I think it's just fine to just cast 2 Brazen Barbers and start the beatdowns, frankly.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, like, you know what? I have a pretty good hand. The game is still developing. If I get this extra land off the Boseiju, then I can double spell on key turns. I can get a little bit ahead and navigate the game where I want it to go. So it's not like the Blood Moon dying is some game losing disaster. He's going to be okay.
Oh, really sharp play. Robert casts this with the Boseiju on the stack to make sure he doesn't get something like Dovin's vetoed or Flusterstormed because the blue mana shut off.
Oh yeah, really cool there. And I'll do you one better. He tapped his Pain land with the Blood Moon still on the battlefield, so +1 life if he uses all his mana this turn.
Really sharp play. So Robert deciding what land to get. He might be getting... No, he's getting an island to play towards a second Blood Moon. So I think the Engineered Explosives is going to come up huge here.
Yeah, we talked about that as a clunky answer to a Blood Moon, but it is a very efficient answer to a Crashing Footfalls. This is interesting from Robert. He's just playing Mystical Dispute to force Alexander to tap some mana, but still kind of perfect for Alex to spend the 3 on Mystical Dispute, the 2 to crack the Engineered Explosive. So what I'd like to see from Robert more is a way to really capitalize on having tapped the opponent's mana by resolving something powerful on his main phase. If that doesn't happen, then I'm a little bit skeptical of that use of Mystical Dispute.
Yeah, it kind of looks like we don't have that.
Yeah.
I think I'm more inclined to just flash into 3-1 and start the beatdowns. Because I think one thing that's really good to think about when you play a match of Magic is what happens if the game goes on for like 10 more turns? Who is favored?
Yeah. This is sort of like something that I usually really don't like when people use the soft counters just to tap the opponent's mana. I think it's sometimes like a little bit of like a panic move where they go, I really don't want this spell to resolve. What can I do? But sometimes the answer is, well, you can't do anything. So you just need to recalibrate, put those two rhinos in the graveyard and find out how to proceed best from here.
The flip side is there are times when it's correct to do that. If, for instance, it had tapped Alex low enough that he couldn't craft the E that turn immediately, it would have been a reasonable play, I think.
Good point.
All right. Alex ending to kill the borrower. So I think Alex is keenly aware that he knows that if the game goes long, he's favored just because his deck is just more powerful in a late game scenario. You know what fairies are good at doing?
What's that?
Having flash and attacking for 3.
Oh, yeah. I can think of at least one more that has those qualities. Vendilion Click.
And soon to be Fairy Mastermind, correct?
Fairy Mastermind. What's the power and toughness on that one?
I'll check real quick. Oh, sorry, it's a 2-1 for 2. Darn. Well, whatever. It's still a sweet card.
Widwin the Biting Gale. That's another 3 power flash fairy.
True. I could tell you all of the words on that one without looking it up. Do you believe me?
Well, whether I believe you or not, we're going to put you to the test. Let's hear it.
2 blue, black, 3/3 flying flash. You can pay blue, black, and pay 1 life to return it to your hand.
Excellent. Legendary creature, fairy wizard.
Yep.
I don't necessarily expect we'll see any of those today.
No, I believe you really will not see that card in a format as powerful as Modern.
A better line might be: are we going to see any Vendilion clicks today? Which I would probably still take the no.
I also would. Ooh, this is a Scapeshift put on the stack. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands in play. I assume Alex has enough mountains left in the deck. Otherwise, this would be a not very good play. So if you have Valkit plus 6 mountains, that is 18 damage, and Robert is coming at 16 life.
Okay, so it's basically just Force of Negation or bust. Okay, so Alex quickly sacrifices all 7. He needs to have 1 Valakut and 6 mountains, and if he does, he wins the game.
That restriction got a lot easier when Triomes got printed, I will say that. Okay, Robert just making sure that the lands are correct, because it can be hard to tell sometimes. I'm not going to be able to identify all those mountains, but I do believe there are 6 mountains there. Oh, is Alex's Valkit in Japanese? That might be it.
All right, so we have Alexander Lim with the Bring to Light deck. No Bring to Lights involved there, but just winning with plain old Scapeshift from the hand, dealing 18 damage and locking up his spot in day 2. We'll see him tomorrow.